Awesome. So, hey everyone, thanks again for joining our event today. So welcome to CodeMentor Events. My name is Maggie, and it's really great to have you all here with us. And I'm really excited to be here with our speaker, Anita, a microbiologist turned front-end developer and developer advocate, to learn more about her journey into tech. My colleagues Joyce, Darren, and Jen will also be moderating in the chat throughout the event. So if you have any questions, please type them directly in the chat. So before we begin, please make sure that you've muted yourself, and to make sure that the event feels lively and fun, I would also encourage you to turn your camera on. So I think we started off by asking a lot of audience about where you're from. So I see we have a lot of people from the UK, the US, Taiwan, and India, and all over the world. So that's great. So to begin, Anita will be talking a little bit more about her journey into the tech industry without getting a computer science degree. And we'll be ending with a live Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Anita, the stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here today. Let me start sharing my screen. All right. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, my name is Anita Ihuman, and I'm joining this call from Nigeria. Today, I'll be speaking on the topic, getting into tech without a computer science degree. And during this section, I'm going to be giving you a bit about how I got into tech without a computer science degree as a microbiologist, and how I was able to manage that, and how you can also get started on your end if you haven't already. And also if you have, or you have a current job and you want to migrate or transition into tech, you can also learn that during this session, and how you can finally excel in this space once you get in, and useful resources to help you dive in on your journey. All right, so it's not going to take long, but well, let's get to it. Okay. So a little bit about me. My name is Anita Ihuman. I'm a software developer and a developer advocate at Kibano, policy engine for Kubernetes, and I'm a technical writer. I advocate for open source as well. I think that's what got me to where I am right now. So I think I'll take open source to the top. I always do that. And I also love cats. So that's just a summary of what I am, or who I am generally. And to get started, I'll tell you a little bit about how I got here. But before then, let's do a little bit of disclaimer. A lot of persons say it's not possible to get into this ecosystem, into the tech ecosystem, without a computer science degree. And actually, a few years back, it was so much of a big deal, because whenever you see a job description, it's boldly written there that you need a computer science degree and 5 years experience to actually land a job. But I think over time, employers have started realizing that it's not about the certificate or how many A's the person got during his time in school, but then it's about how much experience the person has over time. So you can land a 6-figure job without a computer science degree. I'm not saying that having a computer science degree is utterly useless. I'm not saying that. You can do so much if you have one already, but then if you don't, you can still achieve so much. And in fact, so many persons who are actually at the peak of their careers right now don't have this degree, but they're doing really, really great and they're happy. And you can also do that. So a CS degree to me is just it's not a primary requirement to get started with your career in tech. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let me tell you a little bit of how I got to my journey right now. So I'm a microbiologist by degree. Yes, I didn't like it per se. I mean, I like the idea of microorganisms and all of that, but I didn't see it as a career for myself to venture into and stick with it for a lifetime. I mean, I never imagined myself spending my entire days in the lab handling microorganisms. It's an awesome career, but I didn't see it as something I could do. And fortunately and unfortunately, in my final year, I had a lot of missing scripts. So I had to repeat the year. And that was the worst section, or the worst period of my life, I would say. I mean, I felt down. I felt like the world wasn't working with me, or nothing was working in my favor. And at that point, I was like, okay, in as much as I hated microbiology, I really didn't get my degree on time, or I have to spend an extra year with that. And so what am I going to do with my life at this point? And it was the same period when we had the COVID-19 lockdown, and it worked in my favor at that point because I always knew I wanted to try other things. I always knew I wanted to go into other things and just explore, because yes, the world is my oyster. I can do whatever I want. I don't know how long I'm going to be alive, so I have to keep exploring until I'm tired of exploring. Yeah. Then I had friends who were also microbiologists at the time, but they're into tech and they were really cool, I must admit. I always envied them. They had such smart gadgets. They would bring their computers to class and they're doing so many cool things, attending conferences, speaking at conferences, writing articles. I always envied that, low key, but then I got to know them better and they were like, okay, I could do this too. And I doubted it at first, but now I told myself, okay, since we're on lockdown and my degree isn't going so well, I probably want to just try this. And that was when I developed the interest to, get into software development. And that's how I abandoned my microbiology. I didn't particularly abandon it. I ended up finishing the course, but yeah, I had to deal with microbiology and then software development at the time. And that's how I got into the tech ecosystem, or that's how I started my journey. And at the time, I told friends and family that, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do microbiology anymore. And you know how parents generally are? They'll definitely bring up the talk that you started this particular degree, why don't you complete this degree before going into the next one? What's the possibility that you actually excel in this? I mean, so many people actually get degrees for computer science, but you don't have the experience. And the worst part is I had very zero knowledge about a computer. That's one very fact. I had zero knowledge about the computer. I didn't know how to use the Control C or Control A, but I just knew I wanted to do this and I decided to do it. And I got myself a course. I'd always ask people, what button should I click at this point? What button should I use at this point? And that was it. 2 months in, and I wrote my first HTML and CSS landing page. That was like the best moment of my life. I made a tweet about it, and I had so many persons coming up to say congrats. I felt like, yes, this is where I belong, because I'd never seen an ecosystem where a lot of persons accepted you, regardless of your background and all of that. And I got on with it. And a few months in, I heard about open source. And I'm like, wow, what is open source about? And curiosity made me to do a lot of research. I got into a community and started contributing. And once I started contributing, I realized that, okay, I'm getting a hang of it. I know at least the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I can do a landing page if someone asks me to defend. So I'm not that terrible at it. Although the imposter syndrome kept coming in all the time. I mean, never goes away. Up to this point, I still feel that imposter syndrome just sneaking in and telling me a very terrible developer advocate. You should probably go back to microbiology, but there's no going back right now. I think I've come too far. Yes, so I kept on my open source contributions, and I made a lot of connections and network while contributing to open source. And my contributions to open source, luckily for me, landed me my current role as a developer advocate, because you can imagine someone who was a microbiologist and 6 months in is looking for a job in a cloud native computing organization. That would be absurd, but then I did it. And my current boss said I was a good fit for the role and I got hired. And I've been managing my developer advocacy role since then, as well as technical writing and public speaking. It hasn't stopped me from advocating for open source. My role hasn't stopped me from writing either. And in my current role, I'm learning quite a lot about Kubernetes and the cloud native ecosystem. And I've also contributed to an open source community, a cloud native project as well as a community manager, and I'm also handling that currently. So that's how I got to where I am, from being a microbiologist that hated the lab to a development advocate and technical writer. So that's just all about my story. And yeah, so now that we've heard my part, let's get to it. When you, whatever you're doing right now, regardless of what it is, that must have made you think, okay, I want to attend this section and hear what this lady has to say. Well, let me tell you, you're welcome here. If you're probably on your current role right now and your mind is telling you, I hate my job, or you're having a degree in something else and your mind keeps telling you, you're not going to use this degree, then that's a sign that you have to try other options. I'm not saying that the tech ecosystem is for everyone, or everyone has to become a software developer to excel. I'm not saying that. There's several other skills that you could use, that you could learn, that you are not learning right now. And getting into tech made me realize that all of the things I learned in school, I would have learned them online. Yes, I would, because Google was just a click away, and I didn't actually realize that until I got into the tech ecosystem. So all of the things I learned in school, I could have just gotten most of those online. But then going to school also made me realize another thing. I made a lot of friends, and my friends introduced me to this ecosystem. So it wasn't so much of a bad idea spending 4 years in school at all. I would also add to that. So if you're getting into this ecosystem,
I will practice. These people, free mentor, code mentor.
sorry, can you turn off your mic, please? Thank you. All right. So if you're getting into this ecosystem, there's so many things you should look out for. Yes, it is rosy. It gets really rosy. Whenever the returns start coming in, you're going to feel like, yes, you've made a huge accomplishment for yourself. But there's so many other things that come along with it. It's time consuming. So you should look out for that. You're going to spend most of your time doing a lot of research on Google, asking questions, reaching out to people, but then you should know that's part of the journey. It gets overwhelming. Yes, it does, because this is an ecosystem that there's so much to learn that you probably haven't heard of. And the more you learn, the more you realize that there's a vast void waiting for you to fill up with knowledge, and you just have to keep learning, because yes, it is an ever evolving ecosystem. Things keep changing every day. I think last month I learned one thing about Kubernetes, and this month it's a new thing altogether, and I have to learn that as well. But we're getting along with it. So it's an ever evolving ecosystem. You don't just stick to one particular field and feel like that's it, because if you want to stay relevant in this ecosystem, you have to keep evolving with the trends that come up as well. And also it is life-changing. It's a life-changing experience, in the sense that you get to meet tons of people. I've met people from different parts of the world, just like on this section. I can see people from all around the globe, and most persons here, I'm not even sure I know where the particular continent they are is, but I'm talking to you right now, and that's like a life-changing experience for me, because I'm able to share my talk, and share my experience with you, and that's something that I feel really, really fulfilled about. So it's really a life-changing experience. And getting on to the next part, we're going to look at how to get started. It's very easy. It's not so much of a big deal. If you already have a job that you're looking to transition to a new field, we can also look at that in this point. And also, if you're a student and you want to manage your academic works as well as the new career path, you can also tackle that. So let's get into it. It's very simple. The first thing to always do whenever you want to start a new thing is do your research and do your findings. Find out all about programming. So what is it exactly you want to learn about this programming? What is it exactly you want to find out? So whatever it is, just focus on learning the basics. If it doesn't matter if you want to be like on the code end, or documentation end, or design end, or analysis, and whichever one it is, there are different parts that you could actually look into in the tech ecosystem. It's a very vast one. So whichever one you're looking to dive into, always understand what programming is, because that's where you're going to understand which area is the best fit for you, which programming language you want to, and where your strength actually lies. So first, understand what programming is all about, and then look at the different programming language that exists. This is very, very important, because the new trends and languages keeps coming every day, but then just look for the one that will give you a basic knowledge of what a basic website should be, or what a simple programming app should look like, and then you're good to go. And then understand different career paths for each of these programming languages. So as a Python developer, you know that there are different choice and areas that you could get a job in. As a JavaScript developer, you could focus on the front end, or just go to the back end, which is Node.js. And as whichever programming language that you learn, once you're able to understand the basics, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or HTML, CSS, and Python, you can at this point dive into any ecosystem or you can actually look out for any areas at all. But then the first thing to always look out for is understanding the basics. So know what programming is all about. Look at the different programming languages, and then see the one that you'll be able to learn in a short time and get started with it. And once you've understood these basics and you know which area you're going to look out for, the next thing is to decide your career path. And the different career paths, like I said, it all depends on what you want for yourself in the future. When I started on my end, the first thing I told myself is I wanted to be a data analyst. But then I realized that I don't like handling so much data because it gets confusing. And the next thing I told myself is I want to study cybersecurity. And I realized that probably I might like sneaking into people's affairs, but I don't think I like it so much to make it as a career. Then I told myself I want to be a web developer. And at this point, I didn't think of any downsides of being a developer, and I went with it. And I was good at being a front-end developer, and I've been at that end since, learning my front-end skills and also learning other things alongside. So just decide a career path, whichever one you can. The best way to actually decide a career path is to ask questions. So if you see persons that are already in the field, find out which areas they are in and find out what made them get to that point, because every person has a reason for why they're learning a particular thing. Now, if you see their reasons do not align with what you're looking for, then move on to the next and do a lot of research, because it's even crazier when you get into, let's say you get into web development 2 months in, and then you realize, this is not what I want. There's too much code. I don't like this. I would move to the marketing end, and then you go there and realize that, you have very little knowledge about marketing and it's probably too boring for you. And then you say, finally, it's design you want to do. You've spent about 6 to 5 months contemplating on which career path is the best fit for you, and that is a lot of time, and time matters a lot in this ecosystem. So you want to use your time wisely. So you have to decide the first month of looking at what programming language you're going to learn. While you're doing that, try to decide a career path for yourself. And if it's web development, you know that there are different areas under web development. There's the front end, there's the back end, and there's the full stack. And then if you're going for design, you know that there are different aspects under the design. You have either UI, UX, you have the graphics, the motions, animation, and so much more. Then we have under marketing and relation, you're going to see a lot of roles from advocacy to content creating, community management, and all of that. And then under database, we have different areas as well as administration and cybersecurity. So under each of these parts here, whichever one you choose, there's definitely a job waiting for you. So you shouldn't look at if there are jobs available, because I see tons of job openings every single day, and I'm like, I wish I had this skill. I would have just applied for this role. But sometimes it's not about getting the job, it's about getting the experience. Because once you have the experience, the job will come to you very, very easily. It doesn't take so much time once you have the experience. So understand the career path you're looking for, and then start getting your experience in that particular area. Now that you've understood what you're looking out for, how do you maintain this balance between your current job or your academic work and then this newfound career that you've chosen for yourself? Well, it gets really, really tricky at this point, because you would try to see that, oh, maybe this is the universal limit to, take a full stop and then breathe and then just relax and not stress my brain. But yeah, that's also laziness speaking to you. So you might not want to listen to that. Sometimes you want to just give it a break and then rest, but then also that comes as well with the procrastination that to try to manage. How do you manage your time with your current job and what you're doing, or your academic work and this? On my end, I tried as much as possible to learn at night, because I spent most of my days or my afternoons either in school or handling tasks. And I stayed with my parents at the time. So I was doing mostly house chores or staying in school or doing one thing or the other that consumed majority of my time. And at the end of the day, I'll get so drained. The only time I had to learn was actually the night hours. So I spent most of my nights trying to learn a little I can. I'll spend like 3 hours in the night just learning one thing. And it helped me a lot, because within a period of 1 month, I was able to understand good enough to start practicing, even with night learning. And at that point, I realized, okay, now that I can switch my time, I can control what exactly it is I am looking for. I started allocating my time schedules. Even if it's 1 hour a day, I dedicate 1 hour to either learn one thing or contribute to one thing or write a particular thing. And that also helped me a lot. So learn time management. It matters a lot, because your time is everything. You imagine you're spending 20 hours on your current job, and you want to, let's say, divide that 20 hours or 40 hours a week to your part job or your new career that you're looking in for. Well, it's actually simple. You look at the time frame from when your mind is relaxed enough to actually get something new, from when you know that you're free from the calls that you're going to be getting from work, or you're free from the assignment or the tasks that you're going to be receiving from your work. And at that point, you just schedule it. Okay, if it's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., you just schedule that, yes, I'm going to learn, even if it's one topic for that particular few hours, you're going to focus and learn that thing. And then you do the same thing the next day, and continuously. And within a space of 3 months, you've actually acquired so much knowledge from just giving or sparing 2 hours to 3 hours a day for learning. And another thing is prioritization. Learn to put tasks first. So for me, I have this tags. I have this note where I put down almost everything I have to do. Most of the time it gets so filled up, I have to like stick them on the walls just to make sure I don't forget. And every single time I align them according to which one comes first. So with the task that comes first, task that I'm going to take on for that particular moment or that particular day. So if it is your job or a particular responsibility that you have to do it, then go to it. Once you're done with that, come back and learn. And then prioritization, if it's a new topic that you know that is going to help you in your tech career, then put it first and make sure you master that and get good at it. And try putting things that are more important to come first whenever you're organizing your tasks. And you can use task management tools. Try to use your Google Calendar, because I always set reminder on my end to get notification whenever I have to write an article, or whenever I have to read a book, or whenever I have to actually study. So I actually dedicate times for this, and I get notifications for that. You can also use task management tools like Trello, your Trello board, to help you organize what exactly you're meant to learn. And prioritization is good in the sense that you must have understood the topics or the areas that you're supposed to focus your energy on, and then you're working towards that. So this will help you in the prioritization. Then play to your strengths. There's this say that a jack of all trade is a master of none, which is true. It's partly true in the sense that you become a master of none when you do not prioritize. You become a master of none when you try to put all of your your eggs inside one basket and handle all at once. That's when you become a master of none. So what if you become an expert at none of them? That's what happens in that situation. But then in an area or in a case where you try to, put each of the jobs or each of the tasks first and then take one step at a time, you'll be able to master one. And then while you're mastering that, you're beginning a new start with something new. So try to play with your strength. Don't take it all on yourself. You're human. So while you're learning, try as much as possible to tell yourself that I'm human and my brain needs to rest to absorb all that I have done and all that I am doing. Because if your brain doesn't rest, at the end of the day, you'll be burnt out and you'll be wasting a lot of cognitive resources because you're focusing all your energy on learning different topics, different things at the same time. A typical example in this scenario would be learning 2 programming languages at the same time without actually having a better knowledge or better understanding of one. While you're trying to learn JavaScript, you're also trying to learn Python. These are like 2 very different programming languages that focus on different areas generally. And then you're learning both of them, starting both of them within the same period and trying to manage yourself. At this point, you're going to be burning a lot of mental resources, and you end up not actually being good at anyone or being an expert at any of these programming languages because you either confuse yourself along the way and then you get exhausted mentally and you stop learning along the way. So we don't want to do that. So play according to your strengths and try to tell yourself that you're human and you have to let your brain to absorb all that you're doing. And then try as much as possible to be realistic with your goals. So when I started my career, I told myself, I give myself 2 years, I'm going to be a senior, I'm going to be assuming a senior role, which is very possible. But then while you're calculating all of this, try to look at other obstructions that are going to be coming up along the way because you have to learn. And it's not easy to assume a senior role from just 2 years of working experience. It's not really easy. Except you're a genius, I'm a genius, but then it's not really easy. So you have to be realistic, look at things that you can achieve short-term period, long-term period, and then calculate how very feasible is this my goals or how very feasible are these my dreams that I'm working towards. And if you think these plans that you have should be long-term goals, then you should put them under your long-term goals. And then if you're working towards short-term goals, make sure they are actually something you can work towards within that short-term period and not goals that you should be working towards for a lifetime. Try as much as possible to be realistic with your goals while you're organizing your time. And by the time you've learned how to, toggle between whatever you're doing right now and your new career path, the next thing to do is to understand how to get or excel in this particular career. People have different ways of doing things. It doesn't really work for everyone. There's no rule or there's no step-to-step guide to become an expert per se. But if I'm judging based on how other persons or people's experiences as well as mine, I would say the first things to actually look out for is consistency, because in anything you're doing, whether it is tech related or any field at all, consistency is always the key. How much time or how much devotion do you give to that particular thing you want to learn? So a typical example is this. I was meant to take a certification course on Kubernetes CKAD, I think. Yeah, that's the name of the certification, CKAD. And at the time, I thought I could actually do it. I mean, although I was very new to Kubernetes, but then I told myself I could do it, which is very possible. But then I had to toggle so many things and I wasn't consistent with my learning process. And I did the first trial of the test. Fortunately, they give you 2 times. You have 2 trials to, take this test. I did the first trial after 2 months of study, which was not consistent. Mind you, I was switching between my life, my job, and also my side gigs that I usually get, my writing gigs and open source engagement. So I was switching between all of this and I wasn't consistent. And at the end of the day, I really didn't blame anybody for not making it past the first trial. I felt I didn't devote so much time to that, but I believe that if I was consistent and I had put that particular certification first, I would have actually gotten it, but I had so much to do at the time. And that's what another thing about consistency. Another example is I have a friend, so she was consistent with her contributions to open source. She started contributing to open source almost the same time as me, but she was consistent, like and devoted to this particular thing, contributing to open source and advocating for open source. And within a period of 5 months, she earned the GitHub star profile. And that is one of the things you get from consistency, because she told herself that this is an area I want to focus my energy on. And she gave all of her time and effort to that particular thing. She was consistent and kept on pushing for open source. And then she got what she was looking for. Another thing you should always try to put first is being focused. There's so much going on in the tech ecosystem. I know that every 2 months or every month, a new technology, a new skill comes up and people are, agitated to learn it. But oftentimes, if you want to, learn and actually meet your targets, just try as much as possible to look beyond the noise that is going on around you. So people are talking about this new programming language, and you on your own part have been learning a particular programming language for 2 months, and you're just at the brim of getting a hang of it. And then suddenly someone tells you that there's this new programming language that is going to be the future of tomorrow, and there's something in your mind telling you, let me just abandon what I'm doing and then go and learn this particular new one. No, by the time you abandon that, you've abandoned all the time, all the knowledge that you acquired just to chase after something that they told you is the future, but you're not certain. What if it's the future for everybody, but then it's not the future for you? That's a question you should always ask yourself. But just try as much as possible to stay focused on your lane. Try as much as possible to ignore the noise around you, because so many persons are going to be coming around with the newest trends, newest topics that they feel will be best for you. But try as much as possible to focus your energy on a path that you've chosen for yourself and work towards a particular lane. And then grow your network. So network is very, very important in the tech ecosystem. Recently, I saw a tweet that says the tech community is focused on clicks. Well, I didn't actually try to debate on that, because there's some truth in that, because you see a lot of persons belong to communities and you'll be wondering, why are they part of a community? Why can't they move on their own? Well, it's simple. You have a better opportunity to grow and learn faster if you're among people who share like minds and ideas with you. And at that particular time, you realize that if you have a question, you find it very, very easy to reach out to somebody else who has solved that particular task or that particular problem like a few days back, and he'll help you with his own ideas and experiences. So that is all about getting the experience and then focusing on the network you're building. Join yourself with communities. Twitter is like the very perfect place to grow your network. As a programmer, Twitter and LinkedIn. As a programmer, Twitter should be your best buddies, and also Stack Overflow and communities like that should be places you should be looking out for when engaging with people. Because at that point, you're going to meet people who share the same thoughts and ideology with you. So if you're in the DevOps ecosystem, you see a lot of persons who are also in that aspect, who can contribute their thoughts and ideas to help you. And you can also impact their own knowledge as well. You might be surprised that even as a newbie, you're able to help somebody else, and the person will be really grateful for life because you made an impact by just answering a single question. I remember this happened to me. I think early this year, I helped somebody. A company reached out to me and they said they wanted me to talk to the community I was contributing to if they can adopt their project. And Well, I love the project they were bringing because it helped to onboard people into open source. It was an onboarding project, yeah. And at the time, I was like, okay, I tried as much as possible to make the communication go as smooth as possible, even without knowing this person that reached out to me, even without having prior connection with this person. And that was it. And I think that was where the communication ended. And just yesterday, I got an email that they launched the project and they got about 26 million funding. I was impressed because I think I made a little effort to contributing to what they were doing, and I felt really, really happy about myself. Although I am not part of the project, I felt like I did something that helped somebody else out there. So grow your network, regardless of how small it is. Grow your network helps you a lot. Connect with other people, ask questions, try as much as possible to do a lot of public learning. Public learning helps you. You can do this by writing technical articles or creating video content that help other persons or even help yourself. Because I don't know, for me, I learned through writing and speaking. So if you also one of the persons that learn through this, you can also try as much as possible. But then if you learn by asking questions on public Slack channels or public community handles, you can also do that and ask your questions. But you realize how many persons you'll be able to connect with after you've done all of this. So connection is always a good key. And just another tip to help you understand that networking helps you in this ecosystem. I got my current role because I connected with someone who came to, speak about their project, which is Kivano, in the community I was contributing to. And afterwards, if I can fast forward to like 4 months after, they reached out to me that I was doing a great job and then I should come and take on this role. So you see, networking helps you a lot. So no matter how little or how small the experience you've acquired is, try as much as possible to reach out to people and ask questions. A good thing, Twitter has these Twitter spaces now to bring people together and share their thoughts and opinions. You can join some of these spaces and try to ask questions and connect to the speakers or anyone who is on that space. You'll be surprised at how much impact those people will make in your life. Not today, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but within a very, very short period, you'll see that that person actually impacts your life in one way or another. Yes, so these are like the few tips to help you succeed in this career path. And with all of this being said, you might want to also look at the resources to help you get started. Now you've like understood you've heard my story and how I got to this particular point. You've seen all the points, all the tips that helped me on my end. I hope this also helps you as well. Now, if you want to get started and you're wondering how, I'm going to share these slides afterwards. So you can look at some of these links and check them out. Most of these sites are really helpful because they helped me on my end to learn about a particular language I was taking at the time. So this might also help you on your end too. You check out the Udemy and Coursera sites. They have available courses for whichever career path you're looking for. It doesn't have to be code related. If you want to learn anything, even if it's just normal documentation and technical writing, even if it's a relational course, you can also look out some of this on these channels as well. And then the year one is another community that I recently found out about. They help self-taught programmers get connected with each other and then link them with their recruiters who are looking for employees. So you might also want to check out the year one site because I joined this recently and I think it's really a great one they're doing out there. And finally, what I would like to say is there is no wrong in being a self-taught developer. I think before I used to feel embarrassed about being
Hey everyone, I think the speaker is probably experiencing some technical issues on her end. So let's just give her a few minutes to get back online. And I think she's back. Hey, Anita, can you hear me? Sorry about that. So I think we just have a few more minutes going on, and then we can go directly into, we'll probably go directly into the Q&A section. But I think Anita is almost wrapping up her talk right now. So just as a brief recap, Anita shared about how important it is for kind of beginners to learn about programming basics and essentially what a programming language is. She also shared more on why kind of having an educational background in a computer science is essentially secondary to getting into tech. And I see we have a lot of questions in a queue in a chat right now. So once Anita gets back, we'll make sure to get to as many as possible. But I do know that we're running a bit over time. So really sorry about that. So we'll try to get to maybe 2 or 3 questions during the Q&A part. But if we don't get to your questions, no worries. You can always post it on the event page itself. And then our team will make sure that either us or the or Anita can also directly go on the event page to share it. Let's give Anita maybe 1 to 2 more minutes.
Hi, just jumping in
I
quickly.
think
Oh, okay, I need
my
you back, I think.
network was- Sorry for that.
No problem.
I wasn't expecting the disconnection. Well, I was just about to round up, so I might as well just get to that. Yes, so there's nothing wrong with you being a self-taught developer, regardless of how many years you have in your experience. Once you come across someone who has like 5 years experience, there will be this imposter syndrome telling you you're not good enough. But I just want to tell you today that for you to have been able to learn or get past the HTML, CSS, and then get into any programming language, you're awesome, because it's not really easy. I have some persons who just stop at HTML, CSS for like 1 year, or sometimes they never continue. And I wonder if they just didn't want to, or they didn't find out the time to get started. But then so long as you're able to get past this phase, you're doing an awesome job. Just keep doing what you're doing and being good at it. So thank you so much. And I hope this section has impacted you or taught you enough about getting an awesome job without actually getting a computer science degree. I am not saying a computer science degree is utterly useless. I'm not saying that. A lot of persons who are currently managers or administrators in their current roles never had a computer science degree, but they're doing great at it. You too can also assume roles like this and just be good at it. So I hope this has helped you in one way or another. Thank you so much for your time. I'll take up any questions right now if you have any for me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your experience and for giving this talk, Anita. So we do have a few questions from the audience. I think we're just gonna maybe run through 1 or 2, and for the rest of the questions that we do not get through, I think people can just post it directly on the event page, and maybe Anita can go directly on the event page itself to answer those questions. But for the first question, it was from David. So once you've done all the initial learning, how do you kind of land that first job?
Well, it's not so easy landing your first job, because recruiters always look for ways to put in so many requirements for a role that you can handle with your experience. But then once you see the requirements for that particular role, you feel intimidated and you tell yourself, this role is not for me. But one thing I've learned from applying for jobs is, even if they put 5 years there, no one's stopping you from applying, because you might have way more experience compared to the person who has 5 years experience. And you don't know that, and you never know that until you actually apply. So by the time you've gotten yourself to the point where you can, if you're going for a developer role, for instance, and you've gotten to the point where you can handle a simple landing page, or you can handle a page with multiple options and page layout, then you know that yes, at this point I can actually look out for an internship role and I'll ace it, because it's not really easy becoming a full-time developer, because you have to have field experience, and you can only get this field experience from taking up roles such as internship roles. Another way to get these field experiences is by engaging in contributions with open source. It will really help you a lot to get the field experience you're looking for. By the time you've gotten all of this, then you can actually go on and start developing your portfolio and resume. And while you're learning, try as much as possible to flex your skills by developing pet projects that you could put in your resume or your portfolio for people to refer to and see how much you've done. Some persons are so shy and feel so intimidated that they never put their project out there. And at the end of the day, they wonder why they never get their jobs on time. But it's okay to show off what you've done, regardless of how little it is. It's okay to show off to the world, post it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and tell people that, yes, I might not be an expert, but I did this and I feel good about myself. So it's okay to do that. And at the time you start doing that, it's okay to start applying for jobs. I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So essentially having a great portfolio that you can share with other people out there. So for the last question, it's from Farouk. So it's very similar to the previous question, but how do you kind of fill the gap that self-taught developers have for not having a computer science degree?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can you come again?
How do you fill the gap that self-taught developers have for not having a computer science degree?
Well, I don't know what gap you're referring to per se, because most of the...
It was more about kind of like the fundamental computer science theoretical concepts, such as maybe data structures or algorithms, that kind of concepts.
All right. So I'll give you a typical example. I knew quite a number of computer students back in school, and I'm going to tell you they're not actually practicing computer science or programming at all today. With all of the basic knowledge they acquired from computer studies and all of that, they didn't put it to use. And even persons who actually acquired all of this came out to say they don't have the basic understanding of building a program or an application. That's to show you that it doesn't really matter all the theories that you're learning in school. Those theories don't actually mean so much when you're looking for a job or when you're looking for a role. What matters and what recruiters are looking out for is how much experience you've been able to gain within that period of time of learning, how much project you've worked on, and how much you can actually show off that yes, you have the full knowledge of. So I really wouldn't say, I'm not saying that this computer science is utterly useless, like I said earlier, but then all the theories really don't count as much as the practicals and the experience you have would.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for taking the time to share your thoughts and for answering all the questions today. So that will be a wrap for this event. And if anyone else have any questions or thoughts, feel free to kind of leave them in the discussion section of the event page. Before we end, Anita, do you have anything else you'd like to add or like to share?
Well, not really. If you have any questions after now, you can also connect with me on any of my social media handles and ask them right there. I'll be glad to answer. And you can also connect as well. So I'll also be glad to connect with you. Thank you so much for listening and your time. It was really awesome sharing my experience today. I hope this story helped you in one way or another. But thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. And huge thanks to our speaker, Anita. And I hope everyone enjoyed the talk today, and just stay tuned we do have an upcoming event next week on November 24th called Building Software from Scratch, the User-Centric Approach. And I hope to see everyone there. We also posted in the Zoom chat some more additional information about our event, so feel free to check those out before you leave. So that's a wrap for our event today. And just a huge thanks to the speaker and for everyone for joining. As an additional note, we'll also leave this Zoom meeting open for another 5 minutes if you want to just interact with us or the audience, or if Nita has time to kind of stay on and answer everyone's questions. Awesome. Thanks again, everyone. Feel free to hang around or leave.